I can't even begin to describe how awesome of a lineup we have for you guys tonight. I want to begin, however, by thanking a bunch of people that have made this possible real quickly. I don't want to get too much into the thank yous, but I can't thank them enough. Everybody from the English department, first and foremost, for helping us, supporting us, making this a possibility. I'd like to thank all the faculty speakers that are taking their time to come out and share some stuff with us. Again, thank you guys very, very much. I don't want to start to name folks because I know I'm going to forget one of them and I don't want to offend anybody. If you're reading for us tonight, thank you so much. The lighting folks, Robert, Marco, for coming out and helping us set this up. It's so much better when you have a mood set right. The writing center staff who have taken their time to help everybody put this together, particularly Professor Tulloch, who's been running around like a chicken with no head, helping make this happen. Again, thank you to everybody, and most importantly, thank you, the students, for coming out. And again, giving us a reason to do this. I guess I'd like to start with, we're going to start with Dr. Jones. Dr. Billy Jones is the chair of the college prep department. He's the author of Everyday Folk, short stories on the common people, which is a collection of short stories. He's also working on a manuscript for Pearson Longman Publishers, so that's exciting. Without further ado, let's just give it up and let Dr. Jones come do his thing. Dr. Billy Jones.
Think of all the things that brings people together. Celebrations, weddings, money, food, music. These are just a few of the many things that brings a people together. But the power of words is so important. And the power of poetry is even more so, because so few words can say so much. Students, being part of a Bee Cafe is a very unique experience, because you get to see not only in a literal context, but also in a very expressive context, the beauty and joys of language. I'm going to actually do two pieces. The first is a very popular piece that I had to learn when I was joining an organization as a fraternity member. And when I first learned this, I didn't quite understand as a pledge what it meant, but today its message, it rings through and through. It's a popular poem entitled Invictus. Out of the night that covers me, black as a pit from pole to pole, I think whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the failed clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeoning of chance, my head is bloodied, yet unbowed. Beyond the land of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade. And yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishment the scroll. I am the captain of my faith. I am the master of my soul. Invictus. And actually, the last few lines should have gone, I am the master of my faith, I am the captain of my soul. Forgot those. As indicated previously, I write a short story collection titled Everyday Folks. Here's a copy of the book. A few years ago, I was very fortunate to go on an international tour to share the experiences of the people in this book. Actually, many of them are just twisted figments of my own imagination. Everyday Folks is a short story collection, all stories written by me, about everyday people who live in Miami and go through everyday stuff. It's been an amazing experience, but one thing in particular is that this particular piece, there's this poem that I wrote inside of it that I'd like to read to you, and it's titled, Everyday Folks. Everyday folks, you have some serious problems. You play victim to the confused. You prefer to be used. You spread drama among a few and hate to pay your due. But I understand your situation. It's part of a demonstration to establish strong relations, to dismiss doubts and hesitations about your negations. Yes, I understand your situation. Yet, this book is dedicated to you, not to many, but a small few. For the things that you do in lieu of what you do, it is derived from the essence of you. I respect your voice and appeal to your stories. I look up to your plight and revel in your glory. I think it is time you are fully acknowledged. This book does more than just pay you homage. In this particular piece, the next piece that is coming out this year, I decided to do something a little different. I'm going to actually be creating a soundtrack. It's a musical soundtrack of stories, a book, to have its own musical soundtrack of local artists, not only local artists here at the college, but local artists from our community to contribute to it and to create music that expresses the different lived experiences of the characters and the protagonists of many of the stories. Here's a story, here's a song, however, I'm going to leave you with this song. It's a very popular one that is actually a very moving one because it embodies the spirit and above all, the reminder of the challenges of the mid-20th century. It was a classic during this civil rights and post-civil rights era. It's called A Change Is Gonna Come. Listen, I was born by the river in a little tent. Oh, and just like the river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change's gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die, 'cause I don't know what is up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. And I go to the movies, and I go downtown. Somebody keeps telling me, boy, don't hang around. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change's gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. And I go to my brother, ooh, and I say, brother, help me please. But he knocked me down, knocking me, knocked down, oh my dear. Oh, there were times that I thought I couldn't last for long, but I know I'm able to carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. Thank you.
Our next poet hails from the beautiful city of Boston, Massachusetts. The title of her piece is Addict, and it deals with folks that suffer from addictions. I'd like for everybody to put their hands together. Help me welcome Portia Ross.
Hi, I'm Portia. As he said, this poem was inspired because I just looked around and I saw how people were just getting addicted to just like things. Substances were just taking over their bodies, so this was what inspired it. Okay, addict. Not angry at the person, but rather the substance thereof. The alcohol, the narcotics are not the meat of my controversy, but the demon-inducing temptation, stifling the babe. The addict is simply a medium through which darkness can manifest and reproduce. Matter is mere chemicals and weeds, neutral in nature, destructively manipulated, ingested immoderately, lustfully consumed. Overeating has made man fat in sin, relishing in what he can consume, inject. Childhood obesity has run rampant. Bitter has become sweet, sweet elixir. Prescription for temporary blindness, paralysis, escape, temporary possession. Side effects may vary, they say. The threat of addiction varies with personality. Obviously lies to sanity, pacifying to the addict. The enemy has his intuition to control his logic, expiring high and yet permanent indentations. But bear no pity for the junkie, addict, or abuser who are once awake but chose to slumber. Rather save your empathy for their babies who are starving, their lovers, their families, and the victims of their ravenous withdrawal. For the addict forfeited his free will, gave to another, his invisible pusher, eminent destroyer. Yet to the curious and teenagers who still have control of their decisions, to do or not to do, to go or not to go are the questions. There's an obvious answer. The action is less facile in a biased state, so make it now in sobriety. Because to abandon habit and to attempt to exorcise this demon is a lengthy process listed explicitly in the fine print.
Okay, our next poet If you've been to any of our events, I don't think he needs much of an introduction, but I'll introduce him anyway. Our next poem is going to read a poem titled Pressure, which deals with the pressures of life. Help me welcome John Oliver.
How's everyone doing? All right, I wrote this piece about pressure. Pressures of life. What is pressure? Pressure is the point blank barrel life points at you to provoke you to join a new attitude, to fall down on a new latitude that blows away your morals across how you affect others, to congratulate it, to introduce a new gratitude. You see, pressure is when life intrudes on your personal beliefs, pressing a tax-paying knife against your wallet in order for you to drop money into the government's palms like money-hungry accidents that sues just to give you more donuts to the crooked police. You see, pressure is when the job puts a blade to your faith about Independence Day, since it blasts off like skyrockets that drive through homeless sockets that traffic jams see under the bridge every week. You see, pressure is when you see dope money pays what you could make a year on a job and flips a week. You see, pressure is hearing all the Frank Lucases on CNN and bursting a quarter key. You see, pressure is when life is on this period and bleeds through your anger, frustration, and stress. Every single week secretes, and here's the secrets. All hidden emotions begin to secrete. You see, pressure is when you want to squeeze through every issue you can't control. And every time you wish today was the day where all the problems cease, you try to release those pieces of garbage inside the toilet bowl. You see, pressure is when problem throws invisible blows, catch you between the bridge of the nose, swelling the migraines of your soul that you wish to sneeze from out of cold. So every time you blow a sneeze of every second stress, you wish to see molecules unfold. And every time you see the spread of pressure release from out your soul, out your life, out your whole life. So what is pressure? Pressure is the essence of struggle that pulls the pin from the only grenade, and to explode from the pain of every slave, every person who's weary, every person who's unknown theory, every trial, every tribulation for those who hear me. So pressure is the essence. Why we're all pressure? Well, we all got it. But it's the reason why all this ink bursts into tears and is forgotten. Thank you.
Okay, our next poet is... It's a very nice treat that we have going on here. She's a current faculty member and was twice editor of Miamians back in the day. She hails from the great state of Michigan, and her piece deals with the contrast present at the beginning and at the end of a relationship. Please, let's give a warm writer's block welcome to Sylvia Rivas.
Watch, I'll trip over it eventually. Hi, I'm Sylvia Rivas, Professor Rivas to some, and I wrote this poem back in 1994. It's kind of a prose poem, I guess you'd call it. It's a shaped poem. It should have been straight on both sides, but Word wouldn't do that for me. And it's basically about the contrast between the beginning and end of a relationship when someone does a 180 flip on you. Obituary. My lover passed away sometime in January. All that's left of him is you, a walking shadow of the man who surely must lie decomposing in a ditch somewhere. You have only assumed his body. You, a beggar decked in the finery, stripped from the corpse of a murdered man. Tell me, where does he lie, that I may throw enough dust over his breathless sleep to send him to Elysium? I must bury his passion, which has decayed into your indifference. Inter his wisdom, also rotted into a keen reconnaissance of my weaknesses. In your dead eyes, ashes stir, cold, wet soot from the bonfires of his mind, which once kindled every empty wick of my being, like the sun erupting from the sky at midnight. His gentleness, his honor bleeds like a vase of cut roses dashed to the ground. Shaken by the charnel wind of your mocking laughter, my hands tremble, my words wilt, flowers for the grave of my lover.
This piece is untitled, and it is a piece of spoken word. So help me bring up Jonathan Surge.
How's everybody doing tonight? All right. I wrote this. I was just looking back at the world and I didn't like how everything was going, so I just wrote it. Unison and mockeries, last prophecies, prophets, where we dismiss logic with hypotheses, false process. What kind of world do we live in? A wheel of evil, where each turn spreads a germ and it kills people. What kind of world do we live in? A cycle of hate, one that greats misplace fate and decide to shake. What kind of world do we live in? One where we can't even save self from, where we take so much we take from the earth that gave help to someone's son. What kind of world do we live in? One where a neighbor is an occasional stranger, poses no harm but immediately arouses anger. Cycle of hate, a wheel of evil. Looks like the devil's home is a sphere where he blinds and deceives God's people. Greed, the power to believe in something to mislead but still intrigues people, where we're molded like arts and crafts to fit in, where the pressures of society amounts to weight, boulders into our shoulders until it makes us give in, where you have to be strong to survive, a different class of separation so we can't coincide, the weak or the poor or the strong, the right side of the fight where you have to be born to be wrong, a shut of light to prosper, to rise from, destroys terror, mirror, America, no merit, no lies to run from.
Okay, our next reader, it's a very distinct honor to have our next reader come up. She is a member of the Miami-Dade faculty. She is a faculty advisor for Miambians, which hopefully at some point any of these folks that have read, students that have read, may want to submit to Miambians because you can get a publication there. I'll just put that out there a quick shout out. She is our neighbor. Their offices are right in here. Please help me put together a nice, warm welcome for Professor Martha Magellan.
Thank you. I'm not going to read a poem. I don't write poetry. Instead, I'm going to read nonfiction, which is what I write. This was published back in, I don't remember when, but it was from Tropic Magazine back when it existed. And I still like it, so I'm going to read it to you. True story. Whatever happened, the Sugiyamas would celebrate with a trip to a restaurant. Even when I called them in tears after I discovered that I really did mind my husband cheating on me with some Korean woman, they took me to a restaurant and bought me sushi and beer. It was exactly what I needed. Not the meal, but humans who cared enough to see me through this. My Japanese wasn't that good, but I understood the wife when she said she thought it was shameful what my husband was doing. I couldn't tell them that it wasn't just the Korean woman. I had seen into his heart, and it was like a dead fish. Not like sashimi either, firm, fresh, colorful, but a toxic fish that had been dead for a while. While we ate, they suggested that they hoped my husband would do the right thing by his pregnant wife. I nodded, but I had lost hope. I had of late been prone to nausea, and I didn't think it was just the pregnancy. I believe it was the marriage, too. The Sugiyamas were disappointed when I said I was leaving him, but before I left, true to form, they took me and my soon-to-be ex-husband out for a goodbye dinner. A cloth banner with a picture of a fat little fish hung above the restaurant's doorway. We walked up these rickety stairs in the dark. Inside, we were seated at one of two tables in a tiny room. We were the only people there. Soon, a small steaming bowl of soup and a tiny carafe of sake were on the table. The sake had a strange, smoky flavor. As we ate in silence, the sadness of what we were celebrating hovered over us like a bad odor. Maruta-san, said Sugiyama-san in his heavy accent, do you know what kind of soup you are eating? It is buro fish, Maruta-san. Oh, very nice, I said, nodding. And Maruta-san, he continued, do you know why the sake tastes different? No, Sugiyama-san, I answered again. Because it has inside a piece of smoked buro fish, Maruta-san. Oh, that's nice. I nodded blankly. He seemed to be waiting for something, but nothing came out. I glanced at my husband, who was being better schooled in the culture, and who would sometimes gloat over my own faux pas, but he avoided my gaze. The sake had relaxed me, and I was polishing off my grilled fish with gusto. Maruta-san, Sugiyama began again. Do you know what kind of fish this is? No, Sugiyama said, son. It was a strain for me to smile. I wished my husband would surface and say something, but his glassy-eyed stare remained fixed dead ahead.
「
Sugiyama-san, he continued. Do you know what kind of fish this is? No, Sugiyama said, son. It was a strain for me to smile. I wished my husband would surface and say something, but his glassy-eyed stare remained fixed dead ahead. It's Budo fish, Maruta-san, he said with the same tone of expectancy. It's really very good, I said. His expression didn't change, so I knew I was doing something wrong. Everything you eat in this restaurant has Budo fish in it, Maruta-san, he said. That's interesting, I muttered. Exasperated, he turned to my husband. I do not think Maruta-san knows what fish is. My husband brusquely turned to me and, speaking English too fast for the Sugiyamas to grasp, explained that I had eaten blowfish, which was poisonous, and if not cooked exactly right, could kill any one of us by tomorrow. Blowfish? You let me eat poisonous fish? All I could think of was that defenseless life growing inside me. As I glared at my husband, he turned back to his flute in faint indifference. Sugiyama immediately tried to smooth things over. Maruta-san, do not worry. This very specialized restaurant. The restaurant knows how to remove poison. I looked up at his concerned face, and suddenly I smiled. I hadn't really smiled in months, but here I was beaming. I trusted the Sugiyamas. I liked the pronunciation of blowfish. That itself had detoxified things for me. Now I understood what Sugiyama expected. I was supposed to react with dread over eating poisonous fish so that he could reassure me. Are you sure it's okay? I asked, playfully horrified. They nodded. We're not all going to die. I think I have a stomach ache. You will be fine, Maruta-san, he said, beaming again. He translated my mock horror to his children and wife, and they giggled. Now things were going like they were supposed to, and the Sugiyamas and I enjoyed the rest of the dinner. Only my husband remained cold and lifeless. The next day, I took a flight back to the U.S. and away from my marriage for good. I felt fine from then on. The blowfish hadn't killed me after all. But something had killed a Korean woman. She died 1 month after I left. She must have been diagnosed with this purely physical ailment, but I couldn't help but blaming my ex-husband. I did everything else. I half believed his poison would have killed me too if I hadn't escaped. And I found myself feeling sorry for her. I wish she had friends who could have saved her from him, friends like the Sugiyamas who would never let some ugly, puffed-up fish get the better of anybody. Thank you.
Okay. Let's keep things rolling here. Our next poet, again, another distinct honor. We have an all-star lineup in this piece right here. Okay. She's a friend, a colleague of mine, a very talented poet, very talented writing center instructor, very talented teacher, period. I'm going to stop with the whole buttering her up. Just let her come up here. Please put your hands together for Alyssa Stone.
Good evening, folks. I'm going to read a few new pieces. One political piece. Iran. These days you are war, my head and my heart bartering at how best to win you. All that matters is the point needed to advance us over you, and that's US over you. Savita, my old revolutionary Petunia with her America Beautiful, was right in her conviction of my stupid and wild heart. The halves of me are competing over what to rename you in your defeat. I am so sure that I see all the possibilities in you that you do not see in yourself, so I see you and I don't see you. Mornings are a catastrophe between you and I, averted in the last second before the decision to nuke. In the elevator, only to the second floor, I am still caffeinating, sniffing out your eventual ruin and reports from the fields and the pleas from weak congressmen and silly activists. Everything is so tiny from up here. I imagine the dark, sandy edges of your country still sleeping, one eye barely closed, and survival still heavy, even in your dreams. The doors slide open indecisively. I recognize the sentiment even in a non-human. I pause thinking about you. My feelers perk towards rapture and disappointment. I know your pain is a crude sludge, but the sun is up and the doctor is in. Party. I had tried damnedest to forget how tiny I was in the chain link fence over Overtown, basking in the surreal glow of green shit and alcohol-saturated piss and bass. how we count seconds and waste fruitless energy dancing against names we will never say, but out of courtesy or curiosity or control, touch another in the bleeding bump and grind or laugh of the sour face of awkwardness. At our left feet, stumbling and stomping all over salsa, I had tried not to covet those who chose to move slower, bodies like warm toffee melting in and out of each other, lips and pelvic bones and the gross anatomy of downtown. I had tried to ignore the cattle rancher stare downs of the slitted eyes, scheming and scamming for a quickie. I thought I could be that girl wrestling over some cologne drunk in the corner, searching for a better fantasy, a little something to talk about over breakfast at Denny's, or even a little something to the likeness of a memento, like a free t-shirt or promotional glow-in-the-dark bracelet. I had tried not to remember the way the stuttering light remembers how to make you beautiful, and that candy-colored drinks have a feeling, and how bass drop low tickles my chest, and how good it feels in a crowd of people to find your nameless self. I don't like math. And it's true, I don't. I teach English for a reason. But I do like the quadratic equation, which I remember from 7th grade. In the recesses of the brain, you flip-flop and buoy and swirl, and memory strung like silver paper clips, you become sardines. I'm tired again like 5 minutes ago and yesterday. And finding you easily, my expectations are waves of lips breaking over your name and over your face, oh, my sweet quadratic equation. Your eyes are brown Romulus clouds, deep set and overcast and Morse coding what cannot be expressed with thin lips or pale hands. This is risky, the synapses of the cerebellum, translating and decoding and misinterpreting what it is that we feel we believe. Still, the whitened iris, telescopic, your bars of chocolate, the desert teleological. I touch you and I let you touch me from a distance. Thank you.
All right, let's just keep this rolling. Please help me welcome back John Oliver.
Everybody doing all right still? All right. I wrote this one piece. It's called "Watch Yourself." The reason why I wrote it because at the time I was thinking about all these high school buddies of mine I went to high school with, played football with, and I was like, I wonder what would happen if I wrote a piece in the future about them, about one of them, you know, because when we get our 10-year reunion, some people will be drug addicts, some people be in jail, we'll be successful. But I wrote this one piece. Hope y'all like it. It says, man, he ought to be ashamed of himself. Just look, a 36-year-old man who can't read one third-grade book. And the worst part about it all, he's so hooked to the poison that's deprived this family that crack cooks. And it's the same person who used to talk about me, since he was the all-star quarterback on the high school football team. See, this man had a football dream, to play in the NFL to dominate the professional league. And by the measurements of his status, you would have thought his cup will runneth over, to carry on his legacy as his age got older. But every soldier in their life comes to that fork in the road here to drive their dreams down the crash course commode, flush their young ambitions down the average mentality, all because with every goal there's a certain type of salary. See, this man was an example. Now let me explain. A person who was spectacular, talented, whose discipline wasn't tamed. Now, although he was the football team star, he used to sell $200 of weed a week as a side job. Now, because of his talent, he was offered scholarships from big schools who on ESPN who were acknowledged for the top 10. So he went to UF and played for the Gators, changed the position to receiver in order to bomb haters. And to get by in class, he used cheat sheets. But remember, this is the same person who sold weed every week. So by his senior year, he was balling real hard, and he had the grades to prove that he was an all-star. And this was his last semester before the day to graduate. He only had a week left before he'll truly celebrate. And at the same time, scouts from New Orleans Saints wanted to draft a player that wasn't even on the team. But since old habits don't break most of the times than not, he decided to quit dealing and make his last drop. So he sold $300 worth of weed on the spot at a distance from the college where people would shop, collect items such as cocaine and weed on the spot. And the person sold all his products in the parking lot. pot. He walked back to the college with $300 in his pocket, and then the man put a gun to his neck and said, "Give up your wallet." Then this football star said, "What is this about?" And the man said, "Hands behind your back. You're under arrest. I'm an undercover cop." Thank you.
Okay, our next poet hails from Miami, Florida. He is actually majoring in the most popular major, which is undecided. Yeah, his poem he'll be reading is called "Found Alive, Man Set Free." They are the lyrics to a song he wrote. So let's give it up for Thomas Binney.
Breathe in thin air today, and no more words to lead me away. Feeling stronger than a rebellion, no more discrimination on this man. I was once a dead man, standing for what wrong I see. Now I see God's grace, found alive as a man set free. I'm a man set free. Letting go of precious life, fight or flight when it comes to living. To live in Christ, but die is gain. Send your men in, and I'll be able to scream, "I'm found alive."
Okay, our final poet for the night hails from Havana, Cuba. Yeah, give it up, Havana, Cuba. Okay, he is a member of Miami-Dade's faculty and a faculty advisor of Miamians, along with Professor Magellan. He's an exceptional poet, art critic, teacher, lecturer, whose works widely published. And I'm just, enough of that. I'm just going to introduce him. All right, put your hands together for Ricardo Paullosa.
I'm going to read two poems from a new series I'm working on. They were recently published in the New England Review, so I guess I can read them now. I never know, if it's any good until someone else says it is. Self-esteem issue. Same thing that drove me to almost gag to death on one of those milk duds. You should never have those things when you have a reading, because then if you eat them and then when they call you up, if I had that thing still stuck, I would not have been able to do this. Thank God I won, and the milk dud didn't. Okay, so this is from a series of poems called Man, and they're based on, they're like parallels of parables from the Christian scriptures. This one's called Lazarus Man, and the idea behind these poems is to take the famous story, in this case, of Lazarus, who was brought out of the grave, as one of the great miracles that the gospel narrates and attributes to Jesus, but to find some sort of a secular parallel to this phenomenon. Lazarus Man. What if he lost the lotto ticket? The man worries about such things. And what if he couldn't bring himself to look at the winning numbers that week, dreading they might have been his? But he didn't know his numbers because he lets the machine pick them. So what's the problem, really? He'd never know if he had won or lost, or if the winner was some hapless idiot who found his ticket on the floor of the pharmacy next to the condoms. But the man would know the dread of having won and lost. The dread, and for that he didn't need the parade of witness. He'd walk around the rest of his unpardoned life, never trying his luck or letting anyone ask him, "What would you do if you won?" He'd keep a corpse-tight lip on what only he had been chosen to live. And the second poem is called Cana Man, a famous miracle of Cana, and Jesus' first public major miracle. He's at a wedding, and his mother, they're running out of wine. His mother gets him to turn water into wine and so forth. It's almost like, it's kind of a humorous moment. I had a group of friends over at my house. We've all had this situation, right? You have people over that don't know how to behave, and they act like complete Miamians. And so this is actually sort of one of my many anti-Miami poems. I'm sorry. Cana Man. It was the guests who act like children, barking at him when he couldn't find the music they wanted to hear, or climbing on top of each other on the delicate chair for a slobbering kiss. They who growled at the waitress earlier at the bar because she wasn't bringing the drinks fast enough. What to do with these people, the man asked himself, now that I invited them into my house, now that I must live among them. Life had quagmired him in Miami, the land of designer boors. Or had he strapped the sandbags onto his ankles and hurled himself into the din of place, chanting cause duties and fake nobilities to himself alone, now with the ids who want another change of music and peanuts and cheese and rifle his cabinets, demanding. Water is water, wine is wine. Thank you.
Alrighty, and that concludes our first Writer's Block open mic night. Really quickly, I'd like to thank everybody that came out, in particular the entire English department, Professors Pauliosa, Magellan, Rivas, Stone, Dr. Jones, all of our students that read, the entire Writing Center staff, Nikes and Charles for running around. Thank you so much.